well, iNcontroL against our coaches today, and going back and forth.
Morphine stabilized. Wanna turn up the heat? We gotta move.
What is up, guys? Welcome to a very impromptu special edition State of the Game here. I'm JP McDaniel, your host, joined right now by one of the other hosts, Jeff iNcontroL Robinson, the only host to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And of course, down there wearing his favorite Burger King hat is none other than Sundance. He's on a train home right now. We were going to do a full-on video call, but some things happened, and now we're getting audio only from these two guys. But we're still going to be able to talk about this announcement. So, yesterday, if you guys weren't aware, we had the announcement go out about 2 a.m. last night Eastern Time that MLG is now partnered with Kespa and IEG. So, Jeff, I just want to initially get your response to that when you knew about it last night.
I think a lot of the MLG guys kind of said it best. It was the worst kept secret. So, not only did I know it was coming, I actually knew what Adam was wearing for it. I knew what mode of transportation they were taking. I knew what time they were leaving for said transportation. I knew that Sundance wasn't there because he was sick. Twitter has become, well, the MLG guys pretty funny, just because I actually know all their life stories.
Yeah.
There might actually be something going on between Adam and Lee. More on that later, actually. I'm excited about it because if you recall, a lot of my comments earlier on when I heard Kespa moving into StarCraft 2 was that I was very worried that there would be no friendship amongst anybody else. It would be Kespa versus the world, and we would never get to see Brood War players outside of Kespa ordained tournament in Korea. Now, we're going to get into the questions, obviously, but that does segue nicely into the biggest question. So I guess I can just probably ask that now, right, JP?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
There's a little bit of an exchange going on here where a lot of people are reading very, very worrisomely, if that's a word at all, into the word exclusivity and what that means. And I did see that you responded to that, Sundance, but your response, I think, to be a little bit candid, was a little bit nonchalant, like you were kind of sweeping under the carpet saying, you were alluding to a bunch of different cliches, like don't bring a knife to a gunfight, that kind of thing. I think people want to hear, and you're usually pretty good about being pretty transparent about these things. What does that mean? What does that entail? Why? Is this purely a business decision? Is this Kespa pushing because they didn't want to be exclusive? If there's anything more you can divulge on this, I think it'd be good for everyone to know.
Well, yeah, and me and Twitter, obviously, I get myself into trouble on there. But the point of it is that, of course, I was just surprised that people took exception to that because, if there's no exclusivity to the deal, then I'm back in the position where I've got no real leverage. Pardon the train noises. I've got no real leverage down the line. Over a long-term deal where I'm trying to create a lot of surface area and a lot of interest into the Kespa event. So that is part of the deal. It's structured that way. It's negotiated that way because it could be one of 9 deals that Kespa does. Now, having said that, it's not that we're trying to block these Kespa players from going out and making appearances in other tournaments. In fact, I've already reached out to DreamHack. I plan on reaching out to some other organizers and starting to broker that relationship because I can sit down at the table with these partners in front of Kespa and say, here's what we want to do. But I understand why people get upset because everybody has a tendency to fly off the handle. But this is not me blocking them from doing anything else. This is Kespa controlling their brand and their players' brands, and me trying to create something which has got a lot of strength and power behind it globally.
So just for clarity's sake, as it stands right now, if there were to be no conversations, we would only see Kespa players in the Kespa League and then MLG because that is the exclusive agreement?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And what you're talking about is the potential in the future for you, Sundance DGBani, to talk to who you choose to see if these players want to go to other places? And if Kespa's okay with that?
Not just who I choose. I'll talk to anybody who comes to me and says, "Hey, we've got an idea. Can we do this? Can we do that?" Outside of South Korea, I'll entertain it. And I'll make the introduction. I mean, again, there's certain people that we're going to be more inclined to work with than others. But again, that's what you get in business. We can all pal along until there's the health of the business on the line. And my point is that it goes beyond the other organizations that are organizing tournaments. It goes as far as to teams. I mean, I want to be able to go to Kespa and say, I've got, here's Evil Geniuses, and I want to get them plugged into what you're doing in Korea. Here's Liquid, here's Complexity. So it's broader. Everybody has a knee-jerk reaction to part of the announcement. I understand that, but it's much deeper and broader. And shit. I mean, I would hope I get a little bit of credit for being a semi-decent negotiator at this point to do a little bit more than that. So again, there's some things that can come out at this point. There's some things that are going to come out over time. But it's what I got in mind is for the best interest of the players, the communities, and the business side as well. But it's balancing all those things out, and that's complex and takes time.
Yep. No, I think obviously one of the things that are also piquing a lot of people's interest is like if you could share a little bit more, because it's been pretty hush-hush. This deal is very reminiscent of GOM and MLG being partnered up, and then of course there was a almost mysterious, but I guess some information came out, a differing in opinions and then a split. Kespa's kind of seen as the big aggressive brother to GOM. Is there any kind of like, how does that take shape in here? Does you aligning with Kespa now mean we're on this side of the fence, GOM's on the other, and that's how it's going to be going forward, or what does that mean for everybody too?
I never put myself on the other side of the fence from GOM. Honestly, that wasn't my doing. That was we had differed in opinions, and they decided to partner with somebody else, and but I still I'm a big fan of Mr. Chase, and I like him very much, and I like a lot of the guys who work over there. But from a structural and organizational standpoint, it didn't make sense anymore. So that is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
So when you go in a line with somebody else, I say, okay, well, who's left for me to partner with in Korea? And with Blizzard's help, and then with their understanding that it made sense to open the scene up, we were able to align with Kespa.
Okay. So walk me through a little bit of Anaheim. You've mentioned what I believe to be, as I interpret it, like a separate only Brood War player tournament, right? Because it doesn't really make sense to integrate them into the main tournament. So it's just going to be like, players to be announced, but I'm imagining Flash and some of the other big names, and they're going to play a tournament amongst themselves that we all get to watch within MLG, right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Is there going to be fan opportunities like signings and that kind of a thing as well, made available for everybody?
Yeah, I mean we're scheduling out the days right now, but the idea is to make these guys as accessible as possible, because that's why they're there. They're there to.
You might have to repeat that.
It's what we're doing is we're going back a little bit. GSL for seeing the North. Oh, did you lose me?
Yeah, it cut out.
I'm sorry. So when we first had the GSL. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna have the players. The idea is to have the Kespa players as available as possible, right? So we've got, we're planning the days out. We're trying to get them as much time in front of the fans as possible. With the similarities being that when we first had the GSL players come over, they were kind of like, wow, this vibe is really great. The fans are great. So we want to recreate that for both the fans and for the players this time out. In terms of how deep and how far that's going to go, it's going to be dependent upon their schedule, how they're feeling, and some of the the obligations they've got, because they're going to be there doing stuff with us and doing stuff with Blizzard. But we're not, what we're trying to do is we're trying to demystify a little bit around what people's perception of Kespa is. So there's going to be a lot of Kespa officials there as well with the first step, but it's just the first step. There's a lot more that's going to come down the line once we get this thing really rolling and moving forward.
One of the big concerns people have too, to kind of go back to that GOM subject line, is obviously I think it's been made pretty clear your guys' main casting duo has been Tastosis, which is obviously the casting duo for GOM. Can we expect any kind of, and some people, obviously, I don't adhere to this, but I have to speak for the people a little bit. They're a little bit concerned that Tastosis won't be at the Spring Arena 2, Is there any worry that they're not going to work with you guys anymore, or is that just completely off the table?
No. No, they're gonna. I mean, the arena they're booked. They've got a gig they got to do. And you know, the idea here is that we like those guys. They work with us. They're part of the family, and so we work with them when we can. But you know, we've got other guys who are coming in. I mean, you know, we're trying to broaden out. I mean, you know, we've talked with several players about joining and working with us when they're not competing at some of these things. So we're trying to bring in as many different people as we can to give the fans a broader experience and see new things. But Tastosis will be working with us when they're available. This was just something that was unavoidable because of a pre-existing overlap, but it happens.
Okay. Some of the other questions, because I asked people what they wanted to talk to you about, and one of the things they talked about too is like any updates or any idea, like basically being as this is state of the game, what is your current and updated thoughts on the PPV system and how it's working? It doesn't incorporate arenas, and obviously there's been a lot of language about that, which is, I actually agree with, but what are your thoughts? Like, is it a success? Are you happy with it? Do we see more arenas pushing forward? 2 per quarter, I think, is what you talked about. Where do we go from here, basically? Is the price going to drop? Is it going to plateau? What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, from a pricing and packaging standpoint, we have successful products. I mean, we're on track to do pretty well with our premium service offerings, which is great news for everybody. I mean, although a lot of people say it's not great news for me because I don't want to pay, but if we're successful with this, it allows us to broaden out and do more things. Now, some of the stuff that we're targeting for the second half of the year could potentially provide even more, meaningful matches that aren't necessarily going to be in arenas, but the idea is to balance it out. I mean, I would love to have 80% of my content be advertising supported and 20% be pay-per-view if the metrics lined up and if the revenues lined up. The challenge is, again, and I've said this, and you and I have, we've had debates and conversations and call it whatever you want to about it. Like, it's just, I got to be honest. I got to be honest about this. If everybody in the world that came to our sites, was going to be just watching things that were supported by advertising, I'm not able to do a lot of things that I want to do. And that's not, this isn't to get into the whole debate of, well, don't fly them there, or don't do this. This is just about the operational side of having, the amount of matches and the amount of money on the line. My goal is to get to a place where there's, 100 guys, not all living in Korea necessarily, but 100 guys who are making a living around this activity at a few key games. And if the pay-per-view revenues are feeding into prize money and travel, I count that as going towards it. So far, and that was a big-ass train, by the way, that just went by me. So far, it's been successful. So far, it's been really successful, to be honest with you. And
we'd rather have you on this call than not, by the way, with the trains.
well, thank you. I got to pay attention then. But again, I don't have a crystal ball. I have a forecast, and my forecast says that I'm going to do pretty well with it this year. I'm not going to mess with the pricing. I'm going to try and pack more and more value into the offerings that I have. But the last thing I want to do is make it so that people can't afford it, and the last thing I want to do is saturate the market with too many products. I mean, we're trying to be smarter about a lot of the things we do. Unfortunately, we'll always be stupid about some of the stuff we do, but we're trying to really get smarter about how we do some of these things. And the pay-per-view experiment is right now is a pretty healthy part of our business, and it's good. I think a lot of people may not like hearing that, but guess what? We make more off of the pay-per-view stuff. You can't off the straight advertising, and we've got one of the best advertising partners on the planet. So it's going to be part of the business for a while.
Okay. For me personally, one of the issues that I had as well leading into Kespa coming into StarCraft 2, but then also even dating back to the GOM/MLG relationship, was that when you partner with GOM, you would fly in and treat like kings a huge cater of StarCraft players from Korea, but the reciprocity was if you won, you got like a Code A or Code S spot, which of course still kind of favored the Koreans. So now with this new Kespa deal, is there any hand back? Is there, because some of the language we heard too, whether you believe it or not, from like FXO Boss and some of those guys, was that Kespa represented the alienation of foreigners to a certain extent. Like there was language that foreigners would not have much of a chance in the Korean pro leagues and they wouldn't be welcomed anymore. what have you done for us in that regard, or is there anything being done about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this doesn't make sense if it's what we did once before and it failed, right? I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm a dummy, but I learn. I swear I learn when I make mistakes, or not even mistakes, but I learn when there's an opportunity to. So the GSL deal was great. It helped put us on the map to a degree, and we learned a little bit from it, and then it wasn't so great. But this deal is structured around us being able to have our players go participate overseas, have their players come to, outside of South Korea, to have a foundation for an operation around training, around elevating, Western play as well. Like, it doesn't make a bit of sense if suddenly we're in a position where there's 80 Koreans coming to every event and running the table. Although, we've seen a lot of, heavily lopsided Korean brackets at the moment. But the point is, in the long haul, I'm not saying just overnight, but in the long haul, if we can start to fabricate some of the same infrastructure for players who want to go train. Let's say, Jeff, you decide you want to go train in a Kespa house, and because we're working with, should be available to you in this. Then you want to try and compete. And you want to have your match play that happens here be relevant to match play that happens there. This is all part of the long haul plan. It's going to take a while, but again, we're in it for the long haul, just like you guys are.
Okay.
Jeff, I do want to cut in real quick.
Call, right?
Yeah, Lee Chin joining us, still over in South Korea. He was one of the 2 guys over there for MLG signing the actual contract itself. So, Lee, welcome to the call. We're in a tornado currently. Thanks, Sonny.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Going good. Sonny, are you actually standing in front of the air conditioning?
No, I'm outside, dude. I'm walking next to the Hudson River about to get to my car. I'm trying to avoid getting hit.
Oh, okay. That makes the reason why the air is just constantly blowing in the.
That's fine, man. Like, the Stream Chat can bitch about that all they want. I'd still rather talk to Sundance than not at all.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, there's still some more questions. One of the biggest ones, and I guess I'm just kind of hitting all over the place because obviously, like JP, I had like 10 minutes to prepare for this, so I don't have a Barbara Walters line of thought going on here. But the next big thing here is Diamond from ESV talked about one of his maps, or not his maps necessarily, but a map, Metropolis, having its islands removed without consulting the actual map creator. And that rubs a lot of people the wrong way, just because obviously intellectual property is kind of a precarious thing in StarCraft 2 as it is. So, is there a defense from MLG? Is this a boo-boo? Did you fire the guy? Do you get it? Or is this something like, we kind of do what we want? Halo did it.
You guys still with us? Sonny, Lee?
I'm still here. Yeah, I don't know if Sundance is. I mean, I think I can.
The league group.
Oh, there he is.
I'm here. Can you hear me now? I'm not moving at all. That's crazy. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, no, the league. Sorry, you guys are all quiet. I was like, I'm alone in my car. It's creepy in a parking lot.
It's better than you picked up by a helicopter. I'll tell you that.
Now you made the joke, Jeff. Now you made the joke. You had to do it.
The league does.
Go ahead, Sonny. Shit.
We lose him?
No, he's still there. He's just a little bit behind. So, Sonny, just keep talking.
Good questions.
He's scrambling, Jeff. You got him on his toes. Lee, go ahead and just jump in, Lee.
No, I mean, I think those decisions are made by the league group, and which is probably what Sundance is saying, and we'll end up talking over me here in a second once his lag cuts back in. But I think those changes were made to counter some lag issues on Metropolis specifically, and that's something that we talked to Blizzard about quite frequently. Not that they endorsed or had anything to do with MLG making those changes, but. Yeah, that's something that over time that has to be dealt with at a larger scale. Like we can't have a map in the map pool that's going to create performance lag when every other map in the map pool doesn't. Right? It's state of the art hardware. It's not like that should be happening. And sure, could we coordinate that a little bit better? Yeah, we'll get better at that in the future. That's that's still something that we're still shaking out. Custom maps and what maps are being used on the competition floor is something that we need to sort out in the long haul. And then beyond that, that's something that you'll see map coordination coming up between us and Kespa as the relationships sort of evolve, so that everybody is trying to focus on the same set of maps as opposed to traveling. They're trying to practice for different maps for different tournaments across the world.
I mean, I hear your thought process, and I hear, like, I guess it was the league guys that did it, but I'm not hearing much in the way of an explanation for why the map creator himself wasn't consulted. I guess it's just above his head. Like, thank you for the map, but now we're going to change it the way we see fit due to lag issues, as opposed to, like, going to him and saying, hey, do you want to reformat your map so we can use it in our league?
No. I'm not trying to throw the league guys under the bus on this one at all. I think that was probably just an oversight. I know that Blizzard had been talking to the map makers about the specific issue, and that we've all been trying to test it. Because Metropolis was pulled off the ladder map, right? That's the map we're talking about?
Metropolis, yeah, the island maps.
Yeah, so, I think that's just something that over time we'll all get better about coordinating with the map makers and working with them on. I mean, Blizzard is very big on making sure that the map maker's IP is protected in so much as they're granting that IP license to the map maker. So, we'll sort that out in the long haul. I mean, definitely, Diamond could have reached out to any one of us when that happened and said something. I don't know if he's tried to reach out to me because I've been traveling, but, he got me on Skype. He can talk to me about that. That's not a big deal at all.
You don't know what you just asked for, but
I do, actually. I love him, but
you don't, Lee. I just said you don't, and I mean it. You don't know what you're asked for.
All right,
a couple more things to go back to, like, the MLG guys combined to make a bad R.L. Stein book on Twitter. There was a very vague tweet about the next step to Hellspawn, who's the DreamHack organizer, one of those guys that puts that on.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Wow. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that.
What's up?
Well, obviously DreamHack's an amazing event, right? Like, I think everybody can agree to that. And that's actually the only esports event that I've never been to, which I'm hoping Sundance will change once it gets back on this call. It's fucking amazing from everything that I've seen.
I think Sonny's gonna just drive, by the way. He's got to go pick up his kids, so.
Yeah. You guys are stuck with me. Sorry.
Sweet.
So, there's definitely, we've been talking to them for a while, and have a huge amount of respect for that event and what they're trying to do in Europe. And I think that's over the next few weeks or so. Hopefully, you'll see some stuff coming out from us about how we'll be working with them. But it'll be good.
Did you just do that, Lee?
Dude, that's your fault, man.
Announcement?
on State of the Game.
I know.
Did I do that? Oh, I'm sorry.
I did it.
I'm not trying to dodge the question, but
No, I hear you.
I figured I was on with you, so I gotta do the announcement with the guy that started the announcement of the announcements.
Sure. Fair enough. It was originally announced that it was going to be a HOTS tournament with the Brood War players, but then it's recently been said it's reverted back to Wings of Liberty. Is there any particular reason for that?
I don't know if that was ever officially announced, or if we were just kind of talking about something that was an idea.
It was tweeted that it was supposed to be.
Oh, it was tweeted? Is that where that? Yeah. Okay. I can't keep track of who announces announcements of announcements. I mean, I fucking don't know, dude. Yeah, that was definitely something that we were talking about doing with Blizzard and the Kespa guys. I think part of the reason why we kind of backed off of that is that they're just making the switch over to Wings of Liberty, and then we're going to ask them to play an exhibition tournament, and we're going to ask them to do it on a basically third game, right? So that was a little bit too much, and I think from my perspective, as much as I would love to see them playing HOTS, and I think as awesome as that would be, I think it would be a hell of a lot cooler to actually watch them play StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty as we're watching and playing it now.
Okay.
Lee, can you give us any hints or any names of who's actually going to be there?
I can't give specific names. I will say that it's going to be one player from every team. Probably not the Air Force team, because I don't think that guy is actually allowed to. Those guys are actually allowed to travel outside of South Korea right now, just due to their military commitments. But obviously, we'll work on that, and hopefully that'll become possible in the future. Yeah, it's going to be 8 players, and I think that should be. No one's going to be disappointed with that list, and if you are, I'm sorry, just look at the list.
Do you have a timeline for when the names will actually start coming out?
At the risk of Jeff calling me out again, very soon.
What did I just had a question actually. Keep going, JP.
Shit. My questions are like things that I know the answers to, so I'm just asking things. So
I got one. Pro gaming license.
JP's baiting me, is what he's saying.
Yeah. Jeff, go ahead.
Pro gaming licenses were something that Kespa rather introduced.
Kema. What's a Kema?
It was a misspeak. Gotta stay on topic. Is that going to happen again?
Curious what Kema is, but we can come back to that later.
What does
Kespa still has pro gaming licenses, right? So if you want to play in Kespa's league in South Korea, you need a pro gaming license. Is that something that we would do internationally? Is that if that's what you're driving at? Like, we have no plans to do that. I don't even know what that would look like in our world.
Right. So MLG will not have their own pro gaming licenses, right? Then I guess.
Not right now. I don't. 10 years from now, maybe. Who knows?
Did Kespa ever talk about like a Courage tournament being kind of brought into StarCraft 2 as well to get that license, or did they talk about the format for which you're going to try to obtain that, or does MLG winner going to get a pro gaming license? Anything like that being discussed?
There's definitely going to be a league exchange of sorts where your performance in at an MLG event or internationally will give you the opportunity to play in Kespa. So presumably that would come with some kind of tag-along rights or a temporary license or something like that, or maybe even a permanent one. A lot of those details we're still sort of figuring out. We've been talking to the Kespa guys for a long time now. Those are personal relationships that I've had going back 5-6 years. But that said, we're still kind of in the early stages of the partnership, and there's a tremendous amount of detail to figure out. And, the baseline partnership with these guys is between the two best leagues in the world, and it's about globalizing esports and bringing it to an international stage. And I think that's what you saw in the PR, and that's a lot of what you're going to hear from us coming up. It's not necessarily MLG structure or Kespa structure, being applied on one side of the pond or the other. It's about bringing this and making it bigger than anything that's ever been.
Okay.
That's hype.
Did you fire the guy that wrote that statement saying that this will be the first time these guys have played on American soil?
No. Well, I don't know. Actually, if Sundance is going to fire me when I get home, then
you wrote possibly. That, Lee?
But, yeah, I wrote that. And here's why I wrote that jointly with the Kespa guys. So it's not 100% true if you just read it the way it is, but
it's 0%.
When you're talking about process, yeah. Well, no, it's not. It just depends on what clauses you put after it. That was in partnership with Kespa, so there's a lot of...
What clauses would you put on that?
As Kespa players.
Oh, okay.
In StarCraft 2.
Oh, well, yeah, StarCraft 2.
Right.
Very good.
It's like the whole context is in StarCraft 2. Like, we're not talking about Brood War here, right?
Okay. I don't have much more, JP.
I love how that was like the thing that everybody latched onto to talk about, though.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because something is wrong on the internet. Must be fixed.
Gotta get serious about it, man. Gotta attack it.
Jeff, I don't really have any more questions on my end, so I think that we covered everything that the Reddit and TLers were kind of having the most. The biggest one, obviously, being the exclusivity. Sundance kind of mentioned that already, Lee. But do you have any more thoughts on that word and why everyone's kind of going crazy about it, and what it actually means from your mouth?
Well, what did Sundance say? Because I didn't hear it.
Jeff, that's on you. What did he say?
He basically said that part of that is he has to look out for his business. It is competition out there, but at the same time, his best interests are for the community, for the game, and for the people involved. And then he kind of talked about how it's not unreasonable to think that in the future he will sit at a table and act as the great unifier for X or Y league himself and then Kespa and talk about unifying them as well. To which I asked him kind of about, like, that sounds nice, but it could be very aggressive in the sense that basically Sundance decides where the Kespa players go from this point forward, and that's about the time when he started getting picked up by a helicopter, and he was like, well, responding to that, exactly.
Well, listen, the helicopter had to rescue him, so yeah, that's anytime anybody hears the word exclusive, right? It's particularly in our community, like, that gets to be a little bit of a scary thing. Here's something that I think everybody needs to keep in mind. Kespa has never done an official partnership with another league, period, right? Like, yes, okay, they go play at WCG, but that's owned by Samsung or operated by Samsung as a marketing division, right? So that's kind of a no-brainer. That's going to happen. They go to Blizzard and BlizzCon, but that's Blizzard. It's their game. So they've never done an arrangement with another league ever in their entire history. And really, as much as MLG has collaborated, like, we've never done a partnership on this scope and scale with another league either. So, from my perspective, in our discussions with Kespa about this, that was kind of the key thing. We wanted to make sure that we were starting with one person talking to another and trying to sort that out. And what that looks like in the future is exactly what Sundance said. And, I think in the near term, it's really about making sure that we're making the right moves with a really key partner and somebody who has an enormous amount of history in the space. So that would be the first thing that I would say. The other thing that I would add to it is that, those are the ramifications and the scope of what we're talking about with them are truly global, and it's about their players traveling and playing outside, and Western players having the opportunity to participate in Kespa and getting training, which this part I heard Sundance say, and having the opportunity to train with those pros in a Kespa style house with their coaches, and Flash or Jadon or Bisu or Stork, giving you tips and tricks on and showing you, how they approach the game with the massive amount of training history that they've had in it. And then, they play every week. Like, it's a complete, if they were traveling all over the world every weekend, they would never get to play their own event, right? They would never get to play in their own league. So that was in part to protect those players, but also to create an opportunity for us to be able to provide that back to you guys as players.
Okay.
Jeff, we good?
Let's give. Yeah, I mean, if we have no filibustering thing, that's all the questions that were brought up to me.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the biggest questions I have is how difficult was it for you guys to explain extended series to the Kespa guys? That must have been weird.
I don't think their players still quite understand our format yet, so that's going to be interesting. And obviously we will have extended series, but the tournament itself is going to be
that little tournament for them.
Nah, because it's single elimination, so they wouldn't actually happen.
Lee, I actually have a question. Are all those matches going to be broadcasted that the Korean players are playing?
So we'll have 3 hours on the main stage on Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific to midnight Pacific.
Okay.
And so that's basically 3 matches, which will be the final 3 on the main stage. And then the other matches will definitely be broadcast. We're just still figuring out kind of the scheduling and the logistics around that. Because we were originally expecting 4 players, and now 8 are coming. So
will you have to pay to watch the Broodboard players play?
At Anaheim?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Jeff, I think we're done here for this very incredibly impromptu show. I have to go broadcast actually over at MLG.tv. We've got North American Qualifiers Day 2 happening in about an hour. Check that out. Jeff, you want to do some shout outs real quick?
Oh yeah, just thank you for this opportunity. Really, it's an exciting event, but it's also a momentous one, so there's a lot of questions to be had, and thank you for Sundance and Lee for being fairly candid about it. Still could be a little bit more open about it. That's okay. Obviously, big shout out to my sponsors, Evil Geniuses, and all our wonderful companies. And looking forward to Anaheim. I can't wait. Going to be very excited. Everyone that's listening, if you have the ability to, please do attend, if not for at least the opportunity to hang out with some of your favorite players, but probably see an amazing competition as well.
Lee, you got anything you want to add at the end?
No, thanks for having me on. I'm a little bit jet lagged and not entirely awake, so
yeah.
Hopefully I didn't say something too bad.
I do want to mention that I think Adam actually tweeted this, that right now the Anaheim spectator passes are going to sell out. So buy them sooner than later, and that's not just us trying to drive ticket sales or anything. Just if you want to come to Anaheim, if you're planning on and you haven't bought a spectator pass, do it, because we're going to sell out. So
yeah, it's a good call.
Yeah, I guess that's it. This isn't a full-on state of the game. We'll probably do one. Jeff, are we still playing Diablo 3 on Tuesday? Are you in for that?
I have inside the game, but as long as it doesn't conflict with that, then yeah, I think so.
Okay, could probably do it afterwards. Be good. All right, well, more details on that whenever we figure it out. And sorry for the shitty graphics and the production here. I'm actually in a small room in the MLG office using a laptop that I just installed XSplit in with no graphics on it whatsoever. So hopefully you guys have some sympathy for that. But that'll do it for this episode. We will see you guys next week sometime playing Diablo 3. See you guys then.
No fans of clock over here, folks.
Gotta say is it's an honor to play you Tealer, and let's give the audience the show of a lifetime.
Oh.
Yeah, apparently looks like I was wearing lipstick, by the way. I can't confirm or deny that.
Like literally, like, hey Sean, so what's gonna be the first segment, like sponsoring? And I was just like